everyone, it's Desiree. Day 18 is up, and this one is just really cute because we are going to have fun with some die cutting and some wobblers because we got to make it wobble a little bit. These are by Spellbinders, dug into my stash as always, and these are simply called Snowman and Reindeer. It's pretty straightforward, and I'm going to use a sentiment from Simon Says Stamp called Happy Christmas. We're going to start with our sentiment. I've die cut it 3 times from white cardstock, the cloud, and then 2 times from red, and 1 from a satin mirror cardstock. And we are just going to layer them up together. I wanted to make sure that the sentiment had some dimension to it, and I even saved the eye for the Christmas. Yes, miracles can happen. Absolutely. But I wanted to make sure that the sentiment had a lot of dimension to it. Pretty much we have the 3 items that are going to be the focal point. There's not going to be any ink blending in the background. I'm going to be using a piece of scrap pattern paper that I found in my stash. And we're going to create some mats with it. But pretty much the sentiment, the reindeer, and the snowman are just going to be those focal points. So again, we've got that 3 going on there. For the reindeer and the snowman, and I know I've said this before, when it comes to die cutting is great because it helps you, and I like to say it helps me, dig into my stash of scraps. 9 out of 10, we are that creator that just cannot get rid of our scraps. We save them. We put them in a box or a container or a file folder system or something like that, because there's going to be something that we're going to die cut that's small enough, and we're just die cutting it once so that piece can be used. What I have learned to do, that if the piece is smaller than 2 inches by 2 inches, it's tough for me, but I do not keep it. I know people are probably going, oh, how could you do that? I know. But again, looking at space when it comes to that. So that is our sentiment. I love that satin mirror cardstock that I found. And again, I believe it's by Tonic. Tonic has some great choices of mirrored or satin mirrored cardstocks. Here are all of my pieces of my reindeer, and I've die cut them twice so that they'll have a little bit of stability. Because again, these are going to be up on those wobblers. I love those wobblers. It's right up there with a shaker card. When you do a shaker card, you can't help but keep shaking it. And these wobblers, you can't help but make it wobble. And I'm just going to keep layering my pieces. Spellbinders is great with their die cuts. They think of everything when it comes to their die cutting and all of the pieces for you. So you can use those scraps. So I used a piece of scrap black for the eyes. I'll be using a white gel pen to put the highlight on the eyes. I'm also going to use one of my alcohol markers just to add a little bit of pink to the inside of each of the ears. And I will come around with some vintage photo. I forgot to do that before I started putting my pieces together. But I will come around with my vintage photo just to add a little bit of shading to our reindeer. And now we're going to place our pieces. So I've got his antlers, and we're going to place the ears. And when I put them down, they were flat because that's what cardstock is. And this is when I realized, okay, let's get that vintage photo in there. But when I place those ears down onto the reindeer. They were. I mean, of course, it's cardstock. It's flat. It's what it's going to do. But it was bothering me. So I decided just to curl the tips of the ears just a little bit. Again, to give it some character, some life to it. And that's what's great about paper and die cuts. We can bend it and we can twist it. And we can just make our character just come to life. I'm going to add the holly to the corner of her head. This is a female reindeer. So she's got the little holly. And then, of course, had to have a red nose. And we're going to add some more pink just to the cheeks to make those stand out. For the snowman, the same thing. I die cut each of the pieces twice again to give it that stability. I am using a heavyweight cardstock for all of my die cutting. So the snowman himself and his hat were die cut twice. And we're going to layer those up. And I'm even going to pull in a gold pen for his hat. I'm using a very pale blue seafoam from my Positively Simon Says inks to go around the snowman. And I'm going to place in his eyes. And I'm going to add a little bit of the vintage photo just to the bottom of his nose. He has a scarf. And we're going to set that in place at the base. And Spellbinders, when they do die cuts like this, they have embossed areas, so you know where your pieces go. It's very helpful. Here comes that gold metallic pen. And I'm just going to fill in the indentation for his hat. Now, you could die cut that from another cardstock and then cut that out and then paper piece that on. Again, I'm just adding a little bit of that vintage photo to the holly leaves, and I'm going to place his hollies on his hat. And I used red glitter for the berries for both of them. I just think they are both adorable little characters there. So here's that scrap piece of pattern paper that I found in my stash. This is going to be a 5x7 card. I wanted them to have room, but this design would certainly work on a standard A2 size card as well. I cut that piece of cardstock paper to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 so that I would have a little bit of a white border to be able to set down. And then I'm sorry, my mistake. The white is cut 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and the pattern paper is cut 4 1/2 by 6 1/2. My bad. And then we have that red glitter going around it. So very, very bright card. I'm going to set the sentiment in place first, and I'm going to have that in the center but down towards the bottom. I love the Happy Christmas. And I am going to use an acrylic block just to make sure that sets. Now the wobblers that I have are the mini wobblers. They're the smallest ones. And I'm just going to remove the backing from the top and make sure it's set correctly, meaning straight up and down. And then the same thing for the snowman. And then I'm going to remove the release paper so that this will go onto our card base, and they're going to be on each side of the sentiment. And here we go. This is going to be a forever thing now. Now we're just going to keep making them wobble and having fun. I love wobblers. I think they can add so much to your card. And here we go. Yeah, this is going to be for a little bit. So you should all sit back and just watch because, yes, Desiree loves doing that. Again, I hope you enjoyed day 18 of our 2022 Christmas series. The products, as long as they're still available, will be listed down below. But again, I encourage you, dig into your stash and use these techniques that I showed you for your card creations. If you have any questions, make sure you leave those down below and I'll make sure I get back to you as soon as I can. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, and I hope to see you in the next video. But always remember what's most important for me. Always be creative, and I'll be talking to you in the next one. Till then.